Want to pass the real estate exam on your first try? Look no further. In this video, we'll dive into 20 crucial questions from the exam that are frequently answered wrong. We'll break down the questions and provide clear, concise answers to help you pass with flying colors. Let's get started and get you one step closer to your dream of becoming a licensed real estate agent.
41. The best definition of reconciliation is as follows. The appraiser's assessment of the highest and best use for a property. An average of the value from each approach to value. The appraiser's weighing of each property and approach to value. The method used to determine a property's most appropriate capitalization rate. The answer is the appraiser's weighing of each property and approach to value. The reconciliation process requires the appraiser to compare and analyze data from multiple methods of valuation and make adjustments where necessary before finalizing the estimate. 42. The term involuntary alienation refers to the following. Aliens are prohibited from owning land without permission from Elon Musk. Property ownership can be transferred via the operation of law. Without the owner's permission, an estate cannot be transferred. Without consent, no one may be forced to abandon title. The answer is that the ownership of property may be transferred by operation of law. This means that the law, rather than the owner, determines to whom the property is transferred. The transfer would happen without the consent of the owner. An excellent example of involuntary alienation is the process of eminent domain, where a city takes a property from an owner, pays compensation, and uses it for the good of the public. 43. An easement appurtenant is removed when the holder of the servient tenement sells the property. Runs with the land. Is limited to 1 year by federal regulation. Is a personal right of the grantee. Explanation. The answer is that it runs with the land. Something that passes with the title to land is said to run with the land, so easements and liens run with the land and pass to the next owner of the property upon the sale. Note, while the legal process allows liens and encumbrances to transfer to the new owner upon sale, if a buyer is using financing, it's very unlikely that the bank will allow the sale to go through with pending unresolved issues. That's why issues found on a title search must be cured before a finance transaction can close. 44. A recorded easement exists on a property. When the seller sells the property, she makes no mention of the easement. Which of the following statements is correct? The purchaser has the ability to terminate any easement which is not unwanted. The seller retains the easement. When the property is sold, the easement is automatically terminated. The easement is included in the property's transfer and will appear as an encumbrance on the title report. Explanation. The answer is that the easement is included in the property's transfer and will appear as an encumbrance on the title report. Recorded documents are public record that will be reflected in the title work. The seller does not need to disclose such items, since the buyer is expected to review all these documents as part of constructive notice. Easements are included in the purchase and cannot be withdrawn or removed by the buyer or seller. 45. Amortization is the process of liquidation of a debt. Redemption. Paying an acceleration clause in a mortgage. Converting net income into an indication of value. Explanation. The answer is liquidation of a debt. Amortization is the gradual repayment or retiring of a debt by means of systematic payments of principal over a set period so that at the end of the period there is a zero balance. 46. In the context of real estate practice, takeout loan refers to a construction lien, a long-term loan obtained after the completion of construction, that amount after deducting points and prepaid interest, blanket encumbrance. The correct answer is a long-term loan obtained after construction is complete. Construction loans are short-term loans that are intended to be used exclusively during the construction phase of a building project. A new lender will provide the developer with a permanent loan that will replace the interim lender by paying off the construction loan once construction is complete. This loan is known as a takeout loan. 47. An established business relationship exists if the consumer was involved in a transaction with the company during the previous 12 months, 3 months, 18 months, 6 months. Explanation. The answer is 18 months. To qualify for an EBR, the consumer must have engaged in a transaction with the business within the preceding 18 months. 48. Advertising property or services by real estate professionals, even on social media, should, at a minimum, include the license number of the broker and salesperson, the brokerage firm's name, the office and home phone number of the real estate professional placing the ad, the brokerage firm, broker's name, license number, and phone number. Explanation. The answer is the brokerage firm's name. States may demand further information, but at the very least, advertisements should include the brokerage firm's name. 49. Under a property management agreement, who has the authority to return a security deposit to a tenant? The leasing agent or the broker? The broker only. Any designated licensee? Any licensee of the firm or the broker? Explanation. The answer is the broker only. Only a broker can determine when and how a security deposit can be dispersed under the terms of the lease contract and property management agreement. 50. The depositing of earnest money or other trust funds is based upon federal laws, rules of the brokerage firm, real estate commission rules, state laws. Explanation. The answer is state laws. Each state determines the rules for brokerage firm trust accounts. 51. In comparison to physical life, economic life is often as follows. Shorter or longer, depending on the type of improvement. The same. Longer. Shorter. Explanation. The answer is shorter. The economic life of a property is the estimated period during which it can be profitably used to provide a yield in excess of the economic rent attributable to the land. Generally, when a building reaches the end of its economic life, it is demolished or reconditioned. Economic life cannot be longer than physical life, and is frequently shorter because physical life relates to the length of time the structure can stand, whereas economic life refers to the length of time it is profitable to operate it and keep it standing. 52. The income approach would be used to value the following: properties that are heavily mortgaged, subdivisions that have recently opened, commercial and investment properties rented to tenants, heavily insured properties. Explanation. The answer is commercial and investment properties rented to tenants. The income approach is based on determining the present value of the property's future rights to income. Income-producing properties such as apartment complexes, office buildings, warehouse space, and shopping complexes. 53. The sales comparison approach would be used to value the following: properties that are heavily mortgaged, subdivisions that have recently opened, residential single-family homes, heavily insured properties. Explanation. The answer is residential single-family homes. The sales comparison approach is used to estimate a property's value by comparing it with similar properties that have recently sold. 54. A seller signed an exclusive right to sell listing for his residence for a term of 6 months with a local brokerage firm. The price was set at $30,000. The commission was to be 6%. During the listing period, the house was destroyed by a fire. Under these circumstances, the firm is not entitled to a commission and the listing is terminated. The listing is still active for the land on which the home was built. The commission is due to the brokerage firm. Both the homeowner's insurance company and the seller are responsible for half of the broker's commission. Explanation: the firm is not entitled to a commission and the listing is canceled. Real estate listings result in employment or personal service contracts that terminate upon the broker or seller's death, bankruptcy, destruction of the property, performance, consensus of the broker and seller, or the listing period's expiration. 55. A remedy in court compelling the seller to sell the property is known as foreclosure, specific performance, execution, equity of redemption. Explanation:
The answer is specific performance.
specific performance is an action brought in court to compel a party to carry out the terms of a contract. A seller could sue a buyer, requiring him to buy the property, and a buyer could sue a seller, requiring him to sell the property, if either party defaults. 56. The seller rejects a written offer made by a buyer, alters the terms of the offer, and has the new offer delivered to the buyer. This situation describes a offer in acceptance, change order, meeting of the minds, counteroffer. Explanation: the answer is a counteroffer. If a seller does not choose to accept an offer in its entirety, they may reject the buyer's offer and make a new one, referred to as a counteroffer. 57. Which of the following is not required for a deed to be valid? Execution by the grantor, choosing the grantee. The deed is recorded. The deed is delivered to the grantee. The deed is recorded is the correct answer here. A deed is not valid until it is delivered, but it does not have to be recorded. Deeds that are not recorded may still be enforced by the court. 58. Which of the following is correct if escrow instructions differ from the deposit receipt or preliminary sales contract, and both the buyer and the seller have signed the escrow instructions? Priority is given to the deposit receipt. A replacement deposit receipt must be written by the broker. The instructions from the escrow agreement take precedence. Everything is null and void, and the broker must start over. The answer is that the escrow instructions take precedence. If both parties agree to a change in terms from what they originally agreed to, the change would be valid. So if there was something in the earnest money agreement that is later changed in the escrow instructions, such as the date of closing, the escrow instructions would prevail. 59. Deed restrictions are considered to be encumbrances, enforceable only by the property's owner, general liens, constructive notice. Explanation: deed restrictions are encumbrances. An encumbrance is anything binding on real property that may burden or impair the use of the property. A deed restriction is one type of encumbrance. 60. An owner conveys property to the buyer for as long as it is used as a library. The buyer has a leasehold, qualified fee estate, remainder, fee simple. Explanation: the answer is qualified fee estate. The condition is a restriction that states that if the restriction is breached, the estate will or may be lost. When the estate is lost, it reverts to the grantor or his or her heirs or named remainderment. Therefore, in this case, the buyer has a qualified fee estate because they will only hold the property as long as it is used as a library. Once it is no longer used for that purpose, the property would revert to the original owner or their heirs or named remainderment.